Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1745A, and today's date is December 19th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Right on Schedule, Fed Takedown Proceeding as Planned. Now, before we get started, I just want to know if anyone remembers watching the old westerns when the cowboy or the gunslinger would swagger up to the bar, ask for a slug of bourbon, knock it back in one, sling a coin across the counter, and ask for another. Chances are that coin would have been a silver dollar. They used real silver coins back then. Between 1878 and 1921, it would have been the Morgan silver dollar. Everyone used it, but they went out of circulation when the price of silver went up, and the coin itself was worth more melted down than it was as a dollar. That's why we don't have real precious metal coins anymore. But we can still collect the old ones. They're getting rarer by the day, and collecting coins is becoming a profitable little hobby for many. The Morgan silver dollar is a great coin to start a collection of, and Noble Gold has managed to source some great examples for this piece of American history just in time for the holidays. So if you want something different and unusual to buy someone for a holiday gift, you don't want to spend a fortune, but want something which will be a keeper and gain value, the Morgan silver dollar might be just the thing. Go to historicsilvercoins.com, and for a limited time, save $5 per coin with the offer code X22. You could end up with one of these silver dollars people like Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Theodore Roosevelt carried around in their pockets. That's a holiday present nobody can forget. Go to historicsilvercoins.com and don't forget to put the code X22 to receive a $5 savings per coin. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, it looks like the plan to take down the Fed has just moved forward. As we can see, everyone was hoping, even former Fed governors and other Fed officials came out and said, listen, most likely Powell is not going to be raising rates. And look what Powell did. He raised rates when the mainstream media and everyone else was telling him, don't do it. Why did he do it? Why did he decide to raise rates? Trump has been telling him not to raise rates. Or was he telling him to raise rates? And using the idea, putting it out in the mainstream media and everywhere else, that he doesn't want him to raise rates. This is exactly what's going on right now. The Fed is controlled by Trump. Trump is bringing down the Fed. And I don't mean Trump himself. It's the patriots who are working with him and behind him who've planned this whole entire thing out. And the only way, and I've said this many times before, the only way to bring down the Fed is to destroy it, to make sure that everyone understands who is responsible for the stock market coming down, which has nothing to do with the economy, but everyone looks at the stock market, for the economy coming down, for the housing market coming down, for everything else. Trump is going to make sure that everyone is looking at the central bank. And then once they look at one central bank, guess what happens? They look at other central banks. Now, across the world, we can see there are big changes happening right now. We know out in the UK, May has been in a little bit of trouble. People are saying this deal that you're pushing through that's really weighted towards the EU. It's not really what the people want. And now they're talking about a no-deal plan. Now, the EU is out there, and they are threatening that, hey, if you do a no-deal plan, you're going to see shortages on the shelves. You're going to see hysteria in the street. You're going to see flights that won't be able to take off and land in the UK. You'll see all this stuff happen unless you deal with the EU, and we'll make it better for you. Well, they did this during the referendum. Well, if you vote away from the EU, you're going to see chaos. The economy is going to implode. But did it? No. This is what the central banks do. They threaten. When they don't get their way, they threaten that there's going to be chaos. Now, if the economy implodes, it's not because of the BREXIT. It's because the global system is imploding. The central bank system, which is around the entire world right now, is imploding. Now, yes, there are certain countries that are not included, but the majority of the countries, they are imploding right now. There's a huge amount of debt. The housing market is falling apart. And they blew these bubbles up and they created all this currency trying to keep the economy operational long enough so they could have this incredible event to cover up everything that they've done so they could restart it. Well, what do they do now? Well, there's nothing for them to do. They are stuck. And you can see right now, they're losing the UK. They're losing other countries. You can see protests in many of the countries. Prime ministers are resigning. It is all happening at once. Here in the US and in many other places, you still see the economy falling apart. Now remember, the Fed just raised rates once again. What is that going to do to the economy? Not just here in the US, everywhere. It's going to fall apart. Now, I'm not talking about the statistical numbers that Trump is going to produce to everyone, because he's going to show unemployment maybe declining or staying steady. He's going to show GDP increasing. And he's going to show that everything is great. Yes, this is how they used the magic wand in the past. They convinced the people that the statistical information looks good, so the economy is good. But behind the scenes, it's all falling apart. I mean, FedEx is out there, and they're saying that they are noticing a huge slowdown worldwide. Now, in the UK, they're blaming it on BREXIT, of course. That's not the case. They're also saying the bad weather is making it much harder, and this is one of the reasons why we're seeing the slowdown. Well, wait a minute. The bad weather, doesn't everyone order online? That's what they've been telling us. If you're ordering online, FedEx still has to ship. They're still paying for the shipment. It doesn't matter if it's late or not late. They're still paying for the shipment. And bad weather doesn't last for months and months and months. Yes, you might get a snowstorm in one day, but guess what? They still paid for the label. They still have a pickup. They're still paying for the service. So you can't have it both ways. And that's what they're trying to do. But they're noticing a huge slowdown in Germany, in France, and they're saying, oh, it's the riots in France. Oh, in Germany, it's because of their domestic product their gross domestic product contraction. Asia is also cooling. This is why. No, the global economy is falling apart. It's a central bank economy. It's funny how they're all trying to make excuses for everything. Now, what I noticed out in the corporate media right now, they're trying to control the narrative. And they realized since Trump is making a deal with China and they're trying to hammer out a deal, since the economy is strong here in the United States because of all the statistical numbers. Remember, they've been following the statistical numbers and they can't really go against it. That would kind of mess everything up for them, because we know that in the past, many were manipulating the data to make the economy look good. And this goes back many, many presidents. Goes back, for a very long time. So what they're trying to say is, who's at fault for the economic slowdown, the Fed or the president? Now, I see this with Jim Cramer. I see it with the Washington Post. And if you scroll through Google, you can see this is their narrative. Who's right about the economy, Trump or the Fed? And they're trying to make a case of why Trump is actually the one to blame. And they go back and forth. And they'll come out with additional articles telling you why Trump is at fault. The Fed is right. But look what happened today. The Fed signaled 2 more 2019 hikes. They took away 1. Why? Because they don't need 3. All they have to do is hit that magical number, 3%. And guess what? Even if they come close, boom, they've done it. And the Fed judges that some further gradual increases, they're warranted. Really? Let's see. The housing market's falling apart. People don't have high-paying jobs. Wages are stagnant or declining. But everything is great. Think about what is going on right now. Fed says the risks are roughly balanced. Everything looks good. Now remember, the Fed has always done this. They're not changing what the Fed says to the people because the lies will work. Think about with Bernanke back before the Great Recession. During the year we had the stock market completely fall apart and we entered a recession, he said the Fed is not forecasting a recession, everything is contained. They're doing the same exact thing right now. They're doing the exact same thing, and they're going to continue to do it. Now, if you look at this, you can see that this is what the Fed wants to do. 2018, they're going to hit the median rate of about 2.375%. In 2019, they're going to hit 2.875%. Just enough to bring down the system. Now, everyone, the mainstream media, the other Fed governors, the other Fed officials, the economists, they all know this is a bad idea. They don't want the Fed to continue because it leaves the spotlight right on them. Now, if there was something to cover it up, they wouldn't care. But now the spotlight is on them and Trump is continually calling them out, which he's going to continue to do. But I think Powell said something very, very interesting. And this kind of sums up everything that is going on right now. He said, nothing will deter us from doing the right thing. Think about what he just said. From doing the right thing. The right thing is to destroy the central bank. Nothing will stop them. Nothing will stop what is coming. That is the storm. Remember what Q has told us. Gold is going to bring down the Fed. I believe once the economy starts to fall apart, once Trump completely controls the narrative and has everyone pointing to the Fed, saying they are totally responsible for bringing down the economic system, you will see Congress at this point. They'll have no choice because the American people, you know when Congress reacts? When everyone gets hit in the wallet, when people lose their wealth, that's when people wake up. That's when people say, wait a minute, something is wrong here. And we want justice. Who is responsible for taking away my wealth? Who is responsible for me losing my job where I can't pay for my home, my food, my electric? At this point, this is when they'll make a play to audit the Fed. And guess what Congress is going to do? There's going to be so much anger out there, and all fingers are going to be pointing to the Fed. They will have no choice but to vote through an audit bill. In the past, there was no traction. There was nothing there pushing it. There was no event. Think about what I just said here. There was no event. What does the deep state usually do to try to push legislation? I mean, if you want to look at gun control, look at gun control. They have events to push it along. And they try to convince everyone during this heated moment. Trump is using the same exact plan. During this heated moment where people lose their wealth, where there are bail-ins in the banking system, where the system is falling apart, where housing prices are declining, where people are losing their jobs left and right, Trump, he's going to come out there and say, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I made the economy great. Look at the numbers. Look at unemployment. Now the Fed, they decided they were going to continually raise the rates. And I warned them over and over and over again, don't raise the rates. You're going to hurt the economy. Debt is coming due. Please stop. Actually, the mainstream media and some economists actually jumped on board. Maybe the Fed should slow down and not do it anymore. Maybe we should wait and see. Actually, Kramer said that. And he's going to continue on and say, listen, they're the ones who destroyed the economy. I told them. I told everyone. Look at my tweets. And we want to find out why they decided to destroy and hurt the good people of the United States. What did they do? Why did they do this? I believe Congress should do something at this point. Well, Rand Paul's going to raise his hand and go, wait a minute. I just happen to have a bill right here. And it's called Audit the Fed. I'm going to take this and we're going to vote on it. And the people are going to say, yes, let's see why they did this. What was their reasoning? And when they open the books to the Fed, when they look inside, guess what? They're going to find out things that people will not believe. At this point, Trump will have no choice. Remember, Andrew Jackson's hanging on his wall. He brought down the central bank. It's there for a reason. At this point, he's going to have no choice but to say, okay, listen, we need to stabilize this. We need to control what the Fed just did. Do we have gold? Anybody, do we have gold? Yes, we do. We have gold. We're going to use gold as a confidence builder. We're going to back the system or just use it to show everyone we can support this economy. Well, what happens when he starts to use gold at this point? Well, that paper currency that we have, it's going to show what that currency is really worth. And it's going to take gold and push it through the stratosphere. Because what are other countries going to do? Wait a minute. We were holding reserve dollars. Oh, wait a minute. We have gold. We're going to say we're using gold too. We have gold. We have gold. We're going to use our national currency. We're not going to be using the Federal Reserve note anymore. Guess what happens? The central bank is then destroyed. You can see the push here. You can see how the plan is being formed. Just like everywhere else with the deep state. It's moves and counter moves. And before you know it, the funding for the deep state has been cut off. Everything is changing. And we're going to be going through a transition because once we move away from the central bank, things are going to be a little rough in the beginning. But they will smooth out, but you need to be prepared for that period of time. People say, well, what should I do? Well, I would make sure you had food. I'd make sure you have water. It's always good to have medical supplies. But do what all the other countries are doing. Do what the central banks have been doing for a very long time. In secret, they hold precious metal. In secret, because they don't want people to catch on, they keep silver, they keep gold, they keep precious metal. Everyone should do exactly what they are doing, but they don't tell everyone what they're doing. Get prepared. Get ready. Don't wait. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.